Hello everyone and welcome to today's review session. Today I will be reviewing games from the NAOL Season 19, the 5th and final round. I have 3 games to review, so without further ado, let's just jump right in. Our first game is between Ghost 1, Black, 7k, versus Shuffles, White, also 7k. And this opening is standard. Black takes here. In general, though, even if I have a game plan as Black, that can be all thrown away as soon as my opponent leaves a 3-4 that is facing one of my stones. And it's because if this is not the Joseki they end up playing in the game, but if they end up playing a very simple Joseki, any move I play on the right side is going to work in unison very well with any stone on the lower right. So doesn't matter what stone I have here. It could be a 4-4, it could be the other 3-4. Just whatever stone that's here, if I have one here that's undisturbed, I really want to get an approach there. Which means, conversely, as White, that's why starting with the 3-4 can be not dangerous per se, but if Black ends up choosing this corner, now Black could set up a very nice approach. Whereas if you start with a 4-4, now it doesn't matter really what Black does, you can then play accordingly. But it's a minor thing, but something I wanted to point out. Black goes there, it's also very reasonable. And then White approaches here. Again, this is possible, but again, with how important this approach is, approaching here, like if anything, I'd rather approach from this side because I have a support stone at d16. Whereas playing here, I'm playing on Black's side, meaning I don't have any support on that side, and technically speaking, it's also the smallest side if you just count the number of available lines on that side. So I would just play from here, and if Black wants to build the bottom, allow Black to do that, where in turn you can build your own left side. But again, not that this is bad, this is more in tune with what playstyle you're comfortable with. And then Black approaches, yes, this is very big, and we can see if White does play the quote-unquote normal Joseki, this right side is very nice for Black, because not only does Black have the Shamari, the corner enclosure in the lower right, Black also gets the extension. And so this is very efficient for Black. So White maybe felt that way and then pincered. And what's interesting is this is not a very common variation for White. But we see a very similar variation in the second game as well, which again is, well, what's that joke? You know, if it happened twice, I'd have 2 nickels. It's that kind of scenario. It's not the weirdest thing, but the fact that it happened twice is kind of strange. And it's possible. The Joseki I like to the one I like to play is the Knight's move here. And we would get some ending result if played optimally. Let's say something like this. And again, I don't want to dive too deep into Josekis for these reviews, just because it's a limited time and I want to hit big picture things. But this is what I like to look for. But this is also possible here, and then extend, and Black wedges. Now here, White, you just needed to Atari first. In the game, White blocked here, allowing Black to descend, splitting White entirely. And here's the difference on this variation. What happens in the game is, or this variation and the other variation is, White is completely cut off. Notice how this stone here is completely cut off from White's corner, and Black is completely connected. Whereas simply by Atarying once, like this, Black will connect, and we play our same exact move. Now, if Black wants to separate White, Black also gets separated. And if you look at this position here, White's stone at f3 is a perfect ladder breaker. Black cannot even capture this stone at r13. So, yeah, this kind of variation would be very good for White, actually. Black can't capture the stone, so after like this position here, it's hard to see what Black can do. Black can't capture these 2 stones here. Black can't live in the corner. So it's actually quite annoying for Black. So yeah, just Atari once and then descend. And it's a lot harder for Black to decide what to do. And let's say White didn't even have the stone in the lower left. This would still be okay for White, because at this moment here, now that there is a ladder, then you could play a move like f3 to then threaten both pulling out the laddering stone, but also threaten the corner. So it's just even better because you already have the ladder breaker. But it would still be better than this variation where you don't threaten anything at all. Black is just perfectly connected and you're perfectly disconnected. So then white goes here. So the problem with this move is whenever you are playing in your opponent's area, you want to leave space for base. You want to leave space for a base. So if black simply just pincered here, which is a move I would suggest, the only way for the stone to run is out. And if white really wants to save these stones, you can see they're not going to be worth that many points. So instead, white, I always say this, always focus on self-love. Always focus on what you can do and not what your opponent is doing. So it looks like to me white saw this right side and said, you know what, I don't like how much black is getting, so I'm going to play in that area. Instead, though, black never answered you in the lower left, so just get a double approach on the lower left. Or, hey, black hasn't approached my upper left, so let me get a move that supports the upper left. You don't need to worry about black's right side. If black adds a stone there, all of black's stones are realistically on one side of the board. Not that this is over-concentrated or bad for black, but that's why it's okay to allow black to have the right side. But playing here, yeah, black could have just pincered you. And it's hard to see what this stone at R6 can do for you. Black kicks. And you extend. So again, we can see that white wanted R6 to get R12. But I would even just answer once. Even if black, if they're going to kick, more likely than not, they're going to continue. Then it would be a lot better to then play your move. Just getting the stand-up after getting kicked leaves so much more Aji in the corner and gives your now two stones a lot more strength. But you extend, black takes, and then white goes here. In general, I like the direction here for the most part, but in general, even though this cut maybe doesn't, or black can't Hane immediately, or actually black can, yeah. Since black can Hane immediately, this jump here is just too far. And in general, if your opponent has stones nearby, you can't play very loose moves like the large knights here. You have to play moves more like this one space jump. And I think if you do this one space jump, this move is totally fine. But if black simply Hane'd here, you can't cut because black can capture. And if you even Hane, well, now the turn is going to be painful. And it's just, yeah, there's just a lot of problems for white in this case. So if anything, though, I would also think of playing from this direction. Force black to play up top. Maybe something like this. And then I can all of a sudden build the right side, like so. This helps support my stone that I played at R6, and I've also helped my stones up top. But playing here, yeah, black can simply just Hane to separate. So black just pushes and then goes elsewhere. And so the only reason to save R12 is if you're really going to try to attack this right side. Otherwise, again, you don't make that many points with this move. But we never really see white go for a big attack on this group. Even when black goes here, I would turn here to really put pressure on this black group here. So, yeah, if you're going to attack or you're going to, let's say, get your game plan rolling, you really want to execute on it. Otherwise, you might miss your chance. Black goes there. So this is probably black's first mistake, realistically. If you have this Joseki here, you always want to push up first. Where if white Hanes, you can now descend, and this threatens to connect or cut. If white simply separates you, yeah, this cut is just a big problem for white. There's no way for white to save both sides. So white would have to connect, which would allow you to connect. So white usually stands up. Then you can do your Hane. And then you can jump here at not G17, but F17. But when you simply Hane first, white does the right thing and turns here. And then comes on top. This is perfect. Black Hanes. There's a lot of, excuse me, there's a lot of different things you can do here. But I think just cutting is the most simple here. There's really not a great response for black. Even if black can bump here and allow you to connect, your wall here is super strong. And black's not even alive in the corner yet. Hane is possible, but it does complicate things because obviously black can cut. Black Hanes. Black fixes there. Yeah, this is also strange. Usually you want to just fix here. This now means that white can't even Atari you. Whereas when you play here, white can at least Atari. So this prevents any sort of Atari, and you're still threatening on your next turn to play the move you wanted to play at B18. But here, white has the chance to Atari at any time. White Hanes here. Yeah, white's really trying to put pressure on, but this cut exists. Connect. Or if black here, if you had connected here, I think this would be a little bit better for you because white's forced to connect now, and now you can directly cut here. And so these kind of very tight fights where both sides have cuts but also are low on liberties, figuring out the best way to do something is pretty tricky. But in this case, yeah, white cannot, you can see white's only down to 2 liberties. And so it's not always this simple, but generally speaking, whoever has less liberties is weaker. So these black stones have 3 liberties. These white stones have 2. This stone has 2. This stone has 2. Technically, black stones have 2 liberties as well, but any way you go hurts the white stones even more. So there's not really a good way for white to continue. Obviously, these stones get captured immediately. If white Atari's this way, you can't crawl because this turn becomes Sente. And if that's Sente, then the 2 stones get captured. So yeah, I think just going here, when you play this one, yeah, technically you can still cut, but your stones on the outside are now a lot weaker. Yeah, and again, still here, I would really consider cutting, but fixing is okay. And white connecting here, yeah, you really needed to just fix your shape. I think this would fix a lot of your problems. Again, when you connect here, and black turns, you still have a weakness at E16 or E17, and your left side can still die. Or be attacked, I mean. Play there. And yeah, so this descent is probably white's biggest mistake so far, because even if black simply had connected, you need to fix. Anyways, so it's better to just fix regardless. Yeah, it's better to just fix regardless and leave E19 for later. And black cuts first. And yeah, this is just very dangerous for white all of a sudden. If white jumps, black pushes. Black here, if you had pushed now, notice white now can't even start a ko. So you can push again, throw in, push again. White still can't Hane because low on liberties, so white has to extend. And you can just see white stones here are much weaker than the black stones. So, and you're 100% alive now. There's not even a ko. The ko is also possible because you were able to gain a lot. And yeah, this is just a really good result for black. The entire upper right is now black's. And while white did take a good upper left, I always say the strength of stones is relative to nearby enemy stones. So now this right side is super weak. Super, super weak. So white turns here. So this is main point number 1 in fighting is now the board has changed. So now when these were cutting stones before, well, now the corner is completely captured. So realistically, the board looks like this, right? So now we have to ask ourselves, how valuable are these 7 stones? If they're not really doing that much for me, then these are the best kind of stones to give up. So, and especially because white is only surrounding that area. It's not like capturing these stones means white gets a big area. It's white's only capturing these stones. Whereas again, here, you can attack the right side now. Because now, if you did this before, you would also be weak. But when you are 100% alive here, notice how you can just attack the right side so severely. But saving this not only makes a bigger target, but it would allow white to have a chance to attack or save the right side. White jumps here, black cuts, minor thing, but you can, because again you are alive here with because of those 4 stones captured, you can Atari down and then block here. Even though black is this Atari, again, if black wants to save these stones, you can see how painful it is. And again, you would just be able to go after the corner again. Whereas Ataring this way, yeah. If black extending here, which black probably should extend here, Yeah, these 2 stones are weaker than these 2 stones, so you don't want to play. You want to play moves that help the 2 center stones. Black Hanes, and again, you gotta consider, even though I can save these 2 stones to help keep black weak, it would be better to play from this direction, because if black wants to capture these 2 stones, again, a stone out in the center is not only going to help my N16 stone, but it's going to help me attack these stones on the left. So really, again, fighting is so tricky, but really asking yourself what stones are important when, even if they were important a move ago, their importance can now change. So now white's trying to separate, but now white's a move behind. So now black's able to save the left side. White's also very weak on the upper side here. White connects. Black cuts. It's probably worth doing this squeeze here, where white, even if white can poke through a little bit, notice white's shape gets very ugly, and then you can do what you end up doing in the game black, but white's shape is a lot worse. Whereas if doing it this way, and allowing white to... And black's able to connect here, so this is very nice sequence here by black, playing M18. White's able to play here. The shape's a lot better for white. Atari. Always look for, because this happens in 2 games, always look for not only the ladder, but the net. So white, you can simply just net here. And while you do get forcing moves, right, there are forcing moves like this, it means when you ladder, this becomes a forcing move. So there are a lot more important forcing moves than with the net. So white just takes. Again, even here, you could try to be a little more efficient by playing here, or just trying to play so you don't have to just capture. Because again, capturing stones just by capturing them is considered small. So you want to try to capture them as a big a scale as possible. Black goes there. That's nice. Again, though, this right group kind of gets forgotten the entire game, and both sides really should have been helping to play it, because including white's next move creates another weak group. So again, maybe white felt the game was going in the direction, which is true, but yeah, playing this way, like if black simply... I like black's direction here, and black had the right idea, because black is leaning on the bottom side to attack the right side, but black may have missed a chance if black did not play correctly. Black goes there, white Ataris. Not sure about this Atari. I would simply just go here. If you don't have time to continue on the bottom, which white doesn't, black can cut. Now this, you might not have wanted to make this exchange. You can see if you had just gone here and black stands up, you might want to instead extend here at some point. Extend up, white even cuts. Atari, that's nice. Turn, jump. This is all very nice. Yes. Black fixes, allows white to connect. Belly of the 2 stones, this is nice. White Ataris. This was white's really final chance. White should just cut here. Because keep in mind, if black ever Ataris like this now means 07 is not an Atari. Whereas when white played R5, this allowed black to get this Atari next, and you can see how ugly this is for white. So I would just cut here. Black actually can't really do much here, even if black gets this Atari. Yeah, white would at least be able to capture here. And even if black can live on the bottom here, white might be able to separate and capture these center stones. So, yeah, white should have just cut here. Yeah, and it's kind of okay for white. But after this, black Atari'd and then descended. White jumped. And then here, this is again kind of the final point of the game. White jumps here. This is nice. Force black to live. And then white pushes here. So remember these 7 stones, where their value has not changed. They are still 7 stones, and that's it. And the other key is they're gote for whoever saves them. So if black connects, it's gote. But if white captures, they are also gote. All they are doing is capturing those stones. And for black, how many stones or how many points do you make by saving? None. And again, if white saves them, white only makes the surrounding, or makes the points that are getting surrounded by those stones. So it's strictly worth 14 points. There are much bigger moves than that on this board, including black just extending here. This kills the entire right side. If white wants to finish off those 7 stones, then black kills the entire right side. That's bigger. So really just stopping and asking yourself what are the values of each of these stones? Because again, maybe 1 second they're worth something, and in another they can be worth something else. So like instead, white could have lived on the right side here. White could live somehow on the right side here. And that would, of course, be much bigger than just the 14 points that either side could capture on the left side there. But yeah, for white, for the opening, I would really just try to focus on what you can do and not necessarily trying to get rid of what your opponent can do. As well as really trying to identify, this is for both sides, really trying to identify weak stones and weak groups that we can attack. And really trying to help our own weak stones / weak groups. So yeah. That's it for game 1, though. Let's go look at game 2. Okay, we are back with game 2. I don't think I mentioned it, but white resigned after black saved the 7 stones in the first game. So that game was black by resignation. But okay, here we are with game 2. We have BryanX as black, 9k, versus arunas as white, 8k. And as I was alluding to in the first game, it's not the exact same, but we get this pincer, and when the opponent attaches at the 3/3, we get this Atari. Now, this Joseki isn't the most common Joseki, but basic principle that you want to follow is, especially in this position here, if we do the same thing as we did in the other game, which we would get some sort of shape like this. In the other game, the H17 stone was at G17. This would be a lot better because we would be taking away a lot of the liberties on the white stone. But here, notice how the white stone's a little bit further away. So it's a lot harder to attack white. If white just answers normally, our group is not actually doing that much. So we want to try to find a different way to use the cut there or the stones in the corner. So instead, we want to just jump out. Now, why is jumping out the best move? Because, and this is a prime example of Ajikeshi, we might want to Atari here and live in the corner. Or we might want to turn here and be able to capture these 2 stones. Or we might want to attach here, which threatens to capture the corner and get a response here. Basically, we don't know what we want yet. We don't know what we want yet. So instead of, because we might want to cut here, or we might want to Atari here, we might want to do A, B, C, D. We just want to keep things fluid still. We want to keep things kind of unsettled. Because even if white, let's say, fixes here, well, now we haven't added a stone in the corner. We could simply just block here. And even if white can capture, we have fixed our group in Sente. We could just do something else. So we don't actually know what we want yet. So we don't want to immediately decide to Atari and then turn here. Now, maybe in black's case, black thought they could capture, which in that case, like, go for it. But white has a very nice move here. And I can tell, you can tell because white started the pincer, right? Generally, the first approach is not really the one that determines what Joseki you're going down. It's generally the pincer or the move following it. And so since white played this move, you can tell white prepared with this move. Because if you don't know the clamp, you're going to have a lot of problems. So white obviously knows of the clamp. So I can tell white knows this Joseki, or plays it, which is fine. Atari. And then lean here. Yep. And notice this is the same move that I recommended here. Atari. Play there. White pushes and plays again. Double Hane. Very good. Double Hane at like the high single digit Q level is very good. So black, this is a very nice move. As long as you can't get captured, this move's perfect. White Ataris. Plays there. Now here, this is, while black's move in the corner didn't work, it was not necessarily a mistake. But this is black's first mistake, Haneing here. Now, if you imagine this position is in the center of the board, allowing this kind of Hane, or this cut here, would be fine. Because this stone at B10 can still run around. But when it's on the second line, obviously it gets captured in one move. And if it gets captured in one move, the entire lower left basically becomes white. So black just needed to be patient and just extend here. Just extend. And even if white pushes again, you could Hane. But again, with this stone at D13, black is very low on liberties. So if black plays here and white stands up, black's shape here is not very good. is not very good. And black's getting separated. So I would just extend again. Basically, if you can keep your opponent on the second line while you're on the third line, you will always be gaining more. It is very rarely a bad exchange to keep your opponent on the second line. And I learned this from, I guess I can do it here, the old 3-3 Joseki where white would hane here, like this, and then push here. Even if I can hane here, just allowing this cut here and going into this fight is just not worth it. It's just best to just let your opponent crawl on the second line if they so choose to. And in this case, if white ever blocks, or like if white ever goes elsewhere, blocking here becomes sente towards the upper left. White would need to add some stone here. If white doesn't, throw in, Tari, or descend, push. It's hard to say which way is the best way. If we just do it this way, again, white's going to actually get captured first. So white would even need to add a stone if black blocked here. So yeah, letting this cut here is just way too painful. Yeah, that was... Now there's not even a squeeze on the corner. So now these stones are just going to get captured on a large scale. And on a large scale means white doesn't need to add stones on the inside to capture them. Black tries to live though, but yeah. Not quite enough space there. Played there, yes. White extends, black peeps, and then comes out. And this is, again, you're playing a little bit too close to white's space there. Like, it'd be much better to just take a big spot on the board than to play in the small area. As long as white can connect, you're not actually gaining much for black. So, yeah, I would just... I don't mind the peep, but even just playing 0-17 next to prevent white from coming in more, or again, just taking a big spot on the board. But it's okay. It is okay. White splits, black pincers, white extends, and then white goes elsewhere. So this is... Not that, again, this is a mistake for white, but this does give black kind of an opportunity to get back into the game, because while white has an immense amount of points on the left side, black has a lot of thickness. So black wants a game that leads towards a fight. So I like black attaching and extending because black is leaning on the bottom side to attack the right side. And white knows this, so white answers. So this is really good. And black separates. So here, this is maybe the first mistake because when you're attacking in general, one, you want to reduce the amount of forcing moves you give your opponent, and two, you don't want to go just for the tail. So when you cut here, even if you can capture this stone at Q12, you don't want to capture just one stone. You'd rather capture everything. So instead, it's better just to hane here. And if white pulls back, then you can just connect. Again, you can still attack white's whole group. But when you go after the one stone here and extend here, this is correct locally, but white's able to jump out. You have to extend, and now white's just perfectly safe. So white played this expertly. This is really, really good. Yeah, this is really, really good for white. And technically, locally, really good for black too. But it's not like black has gained nothing. If black has played here next to keep white out of the corner while threatening to attack the lower side more, or directly attacking it with moves like L4, this would be pretty reasonable for black. But then black goes here, which again, not the worst direction. But remember, whenever you get this kind of center area forming, you need to remember two things about it. One, you can make a lot of points there, but it takes a lot of moves. And two, your opponent cannot make a lot of points there. Right? So like in this area here, black can make what, a 5x5 square, something like that? That's like 25 points. That's not bad. But how many points can white make in this area ever? Like just dame, right? And it's because white doesn't have the stones facing it. So you don't want to add a lot of stones in the center, because if you start to build the center, your opponent can start playing moves like K15. Now it's like, okay, I have to add more stones. Okay, what if your opponent plays here? Okay, I have to defend. And not that you have to answer these moves specifically, but you can see this is why they tell you to corner, side, center. You want to start with the corners, then the sides, then the centers in general. So yeah, that's why white's move here at least follows that proverb. Black blocks, white descends. Play down, and then we get this position here. Yeah, this is It's probably better for black based on what black's trying to accomplish in this game to block here. Or black ends up blocking there, I should say. Because black wants to build the center. But in general, it's also good to Hane here. Now this Hane is very annoying because this gives black the corner. Because if you block here, then black can Atari, right? And then capture. But if you just capture, then black's able to peep here. And if you connect, Atari. And black keeps the whole corner again. Now again, based on how this game, like even if black can do this, because there's a hole here in black's wall, black probably doesn't want to do this based on how the game's going. But that's why for white, whenever you 3-3 and your opponent blocks either at Q17 or S16, whichever 3-4 spot they take, you always want to take the other one. You very rarely ever want to descend to the second line, even if you can connect here. Because you can see it could become very few points in that case. Played there, okay. Black blocks, yes, black needed that move eventually, so this is probably good timing. White jumps out, black leans again, and then white fixed, yeah. So again, I think black needed to put more pressure on this lower side. Because notice when white blocked here, and black goes elsewhere, yeah. Now remember back here, if you look at this lower right, black is the one attacking. But always remember, you very rarely, or you don't want to let your corners get surrounded. So while black is attacking right now, the board can change. The board's always changing. So if you look at it in this case, all of a sudden the corner is starting to get surrounded. So if white simply had dove here, if black wants to try to make this corner live, it's going to take a lot of moves. And now it's white's turn to attack, so it could then, black's center could get destroyed. So if we imagine black doesn't have enough space here to make two eyes, and even if there is, you can see how painful it is, right? White gets into the entire corner. But let's say black doesn't have enough space to make two eyes. Black would have to run out. And so then white could lean on the center stones to attack the bottom right. So now black has a dilemma. Okay, do I help the bottom right or do I help the center? What do I do? So that's why, while this move is probably okay, you really need to block here as black. Because, yeah, even just blocking again, the difference now is if white, let's say, plays at black spot, which this is a very nice move for both sides to get. It's playing on the kind of line where both sides want to play, right? White can build the lower left playing this, whereas black can build the center doing that. Well, black could then attack the bottom side somehow. So now black is counter-attacking white on the bottom side. So, yes, the strength of stones is relative to nearby enemy stones. So once white got stronger here, black's corner potentially could have gotten weaker. And so if black fixed the corner, this is now 100% alive, pretty big too. Now the bottom side becomes weaker. So now that black's become stronger in the corner, white's lower side stones have become weaker. So always remember that the strength of stones is relative to nearby enemy stones. So white just jumps though. Then black goes here. So this move is okay, but keep in mind, if white simply just dives here, white is pretty much 100% alive on the right side, and now white can live on the bottom. This move here is kind of attacking or separating two alive groups pretty much, which you can't really attack two alive groups. So, yeah, and you can even see here, this stone's most likely going to end up being Dame, right? You can't really make points with this M6 stone, at least not many. So, yeah, again, I would just block here and go from there. As well as whenever your opponent makes some sort of Shamari, like in the lower left, you really want to ask questions about it right now. And again, anything with probes, you have to get a lot of experience to know when to do it. But you really just want to try to just throw in a move here just to see how your opponent's going to answer. That's the general idea. If you try too late, the thing with probes is if you try too late, they can play differently. But while the board is still open like this, it's harder to make a decision. You'll notice black tries to live in this corner later, but it's become too late that the decision becomes really easy for white. But like right now, how does white play? If you play like this, then black's able to get on the outside, get some stones on the outside. Right? This would be nice for black. But if you prevent that, then you've created a lot of aji for black to be able to maybe get in on the left side, or maybe even wedge here to create cuts. So while the board is empty, it's harder for white to make a decision. But when black tries later, it's much more filled up. So black goes there and cuts. White cuts and goes here. In this case, white, it's better simply just to push here. Because if black blocks, then you get your double Atari. But if black fixes, then you can still run out at K8. Potentially. So, yeah, by cutting, you force black to capture the stone, and black really doesn't care about the M6 stone that much, as we see in the game. Cover. Yeah, here, white, you can simply, because remember, liberties, if you think about liberties, it's going to help a lot. But if you simply just block here, there is no problem for black, or for you. Right? Black only has 2 liberties, so it's not like black can run out this way. Ataring doesn't help. Just put him down to 2 liberties. When you block here, yeah. And here is another very important point here. So white, this is where white thought of the right idea, but just the wrong execution. So white knows, okay, I have a weakness in my shape, so I want to fix it. As opposed to doing this one, right, this just does one thing. So white said, okay, let me make a bamboo joint, which is more efficient. But it is gote. So let me just ask, is there a move white can play that fixes this cut here, but is more threatening? And that move is P5. If you play at P5, and let's say black fixes the problem here, because black has a problem there as well, you can separate these 2 stones. That's pretty big. That is realistically pretty big. But if black answers, you have already fixed the weakness, right? Because if black pushes, you already have that stone at P5. So you had the right idea, white, to be more efficient, but it wasn't sente. So if you play here, black has problems. Even if black pushes here and separates, we don't care about that stone. The whole point of that stone was to fix our cut in sente. Black pushes, covers, white answers, but there's no weakness here. If you just do something else, white, it's not like black can cut and connect back. Even if black just connects here first. There's no danger. So, yeah, this was a small move. Because, again, realistically, the corner can die. So, you really want to, the board has changed, you really want to strike while the iron is hot on the bottom. Atari, black descends, goes there. Black comes in. Again, you want to come in early, not late. Black blocks. Yes, that's big. Here it's a minor thing, but you want to fix here now, because the difference is, what's the difference between fixing here and here? Well, it's better shape, right, to fix with the tiger's mouth? Yes, but when you're 100% alive, regardless of going here or here, there's a difference in co-threats. So if you go here, there are no co-threats to be had here for white. But by going here, notice you fixed your cut, but you haven't fixed your cut, if that makes sense. So white can play here later as a co-threat. And regardless of how you play, there could be other co-threats as well, whether you go there or there. So yeah, just for the sake of co-threats, you can just simply connect, and there's less co-threats there. But white goes here, and black just gives up the stone. And this was very slow by white. You can simply just block here. There's no cuts. There's no nothing there. Black comes in. Yeah, and goes here. And white here, if you had gone this connects up everything. Right? You have a large knight's connection here, and there's no way for black to separate that. By going here, this actually gives black a chance, if black had gone here, to break into white's area there. This is very annoying for white. But black hanes, and again, as I was saying, black tries to live now, but it's just too late. So you needed to ask first, not later. So this comes to a point that's very important in terms of improving. Not necessarily winning every single game, but improving. You need to try to read and ask yourself, okay, can black actually live? Because this point actually comes up in the next game we look at, and it actually costs the person who thought that, but it's still a good habit to make because you want to be as efficient as possible. And in this case, it's if I don't need to, or if my opponent's already dead, and we go to scoring, if I add a stone, I have lost a point. So if black's already dead with E2, I have lost a point by playing at E2. So white should really try to play elsewhere and go here. But in the game, white answered, and white technically lost a point by answering. So you really want to try to not answer if you can. We get this. White's very smart and almost made a big mistake. If white had gone here, the whole group would get captured. So white went there. And yeah, we're in endgame, and it ends up being a pretty close game, actually. Yeah, white connected there. White, you can just connect here, though, white. There's no danger. But we play that. And white throws in as well. That's kind of unnecessary because black has to fix their... Like, if you take away all the liberties, black has to fix it S16 anyway, so there's no point in making this ko. But finding this ko, there's a few points still left, like K16, but... yeah, the end final score... It ends up being pretty close, actually. Yeah, white by 6.5. So with Comey 7.5, white by 1 on the board. And yeah, so it was a very close game, even though black got this huge center, right? So the strategy could have paid off for black, but yeah, I think while it did work black, I think trying to attack the bottom side more severely first before going after the center, as well as playing the wall here, probably was a little too early. And trying to play elsewhere would have been bigger, I think. And for white, I think white, you played a pretty solid game, actually. Yeah, I actually think playing a move somewhere on the sector line earlier would have been ideal. But I think overall, both players played very well, actually. But yeah, that's it for game 2. Let's jump over to game 3. Okay, we are back with game 3. We have... Let's see. I believe this is 21st century schizoid trans ? Black 19. Okay, just making sure the username's correct. 19K as black versus alrobin as white, also 19K. So we get an even game here. So let's jump in. The kick here, generally, you want to kick a third line stone. It's hard to explain why, because it becomes the same thing. But I think it's because you can get a little bit more if you attach. It'll be very similar to this, to the kick, but your corner's just a little bit bigger. But this is fine. And then black goes here. So this is a... whenever you're trying to decide a extension, you want to follow a proverb. If you have 1 stone, extend 2. And if you have 2 stones... extend 3. So if we get, let's say black had gone here and white, let's say, played here, this would be a case where you would want to extend 2. Because you have 1 stone, you want to just extend 2. Technically, yes, you can in some cases extend 3, but in general, you want to extend 2. In fact, we can see it in this joseki more commonly, where after this, black has 1 stone at 017, so black would like to extend 2. Like so. Oh, you should... Okay. Well, you should try to figure that out. You should be able to see it. Okay. Gotcha. Whereas if you have 2 stones, because your stone is a little bit stronger, you can extend 3. And it has to do with efficiency, where if your stones start to get too close, and black actually does a good job in this game of being very loose with the stones, but you don't want your stones to be too close because then you're using a lot of stones to surround less area. So this area here, if this were to happen, black is not surrounding as much space. So when you're a little bit stronger, you can extend a little bit further. If black somehow got a stone here and black had a 3 stone wall, then black would probably be able to extend even further, maybe even 4. So in general, it's if you have 1 stone, extend 2. If you have 2 stones, extend 3. If you have 3 stones or more, it kind of gets... You can kind of play around with it a little bit more because you're very strong at that point. But you want to try to extend as far as possible. You want to be as efficient as possible. So this is a little close. White goes here. Black plays there. And white, how far did white extend here? White extended 2. So this is good. And this is, again, putting pressure on the black group here. Black slides, though, and then goes here. This is, again, the right idea. Just in this specific case, it's slightly better to play low here. And it has to do with keeping your base secure. Whereas if you play up like this, and white were to, kind of like with this stone here at R10, play a 3rd line stone against a 4th line stone, it's always threatening to go under. So, whereas if you already have the stone on the third line and white plays it, white can't go under anymore. So it's a lot more secure this way. But the extension is good. White goes here. Okay. Black goes here. This is very good. Now, the thing with this move is that this is threatening to separate large knights here. So when white ignored, black should separate white. And not only does separating white kind of split up white's territory on the bottom, but it separates the corner off from the bottom side. So both sides now need to live. So white should really just be patient and just answer with this kind of move. But yeah, if black plays here, if white tries to separate somehow, again, there's lots of ways white can try, but it's not going to end well. Atari, capture, there's a ladder for this stone. Yeah, nothing's going to work great for white. So this is a good move by black, but maybe you didn't even realize you could separate, but yeah, this move is threatening to separate the large knights. And if you can notice, a lot of Go will come down to shape recognition, and if you could recognize, okay, if I kind of have a knight's move to my opponent's large knights, I can play down and separate. Inside move, what do you mean by inside move with N5, you mean? Into the bottom. What do you mean by push the luck into the bottom? Like, yes, I'm trying to decipher your meaning. Like, so I see. So like if white comes out this way, like this way, or okay, yeah. And so this is a good question then. The thing is, though, again, what's happening is you are splitting white into two groups. So that is two groups white has to make sure can live. So if you answer, let's say you make a tiger's mouth, right? Not only does tiger's mouth keep you connected, but it keeps white weak. This white group now needs to live. This group needs to live. And while white might be expanding into the center, getting stones around N2 start to open up white's bottom side as well. So white doesn't even have the points on the bottom here anymore. Even if we simply see a move like L2, you're getting into white's space there on the bottom. So yeah, it has to do with we're keeping white separated and we're keeping white towards the corner, and that's it. Whereas if, let's say you go here, which this is not a bad move, but if white were to go here next, all of white's bottom is now secure. And that is just undisturbed, just points for white. Because the bottom right doesn't need to live, and neither does the bottom side because it's just one big alive group. So if you can separate, especially in a safe way, that's like key. That's like your what's the term? Your something in butter. I'm blanking on the term, but yeah. White goes here. Black goes here. This move's very good. Again, it prevents white coming under the fourth line stone, so this is good. White jumps out, so this is a minor mistake. And again, a proverb, corner, side, center, we talked about in the second game. You want to drive your opponent towards the center. So black should play a move around E17 to force white into the center. And this secures the corner for black. Yeah. When black goes here, black's already strong up top, and when white jumps in, yeah, now white's getting a base. White's getting some points, whereas out in the center, it's a lot harder to make a base as well as to make points. There, that's good. Go there, yes. This is actually all really good. Yes, push there. So with this Hane here, another proverb, and a lot of Go is just learning proverbs and just regurgitating them whenever possible. You don't want to give your opponent good shape. So this forces white to make a tiger's mouth. So black just wants to play a move that doesn't allow that. So even just extending here, or even just jumping here. Even if, Mm-hmm. Okay. D D16. Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes. It's a minor thing, but yes. It means when white hanes, you can hane back. Yes. But here's the thing with any move. Your move, black's move here was still okay because now white's B19 doesn't threaten anything. Whereas when you connect here, white can B19 later, which still threatens to cut. So a lot of Go, not only is it proverbs and shape, but it's also realizing any move has pros and cons, and you're just trying to juggle which pros and cons do I care most and least about. So in terms of the fight, getting this Hane, yes, would be more valuable, but the fact that black's move here also fixes this weakness, it's still an okay move, what black played. But here, and then white comes in again. And black's strategy here is actually really good. Pincer, again, this is the same idea with what black could have done here. Push white, towards the center. So this is, black actually does it here. Push white towards the center, make the points here. And then, okay, I want to attack these two stones here. So I play towards white's stones that are nearby. So this is good. And then this is good too. This is saying, okay, I am separating you now from white's left side from the bottom side stone. So this is all correct. White has to fix, right? If white helps the left side, then black gets some attack on the bottom. And this is what you want from an attack. You don't want to just try to kill, kill, kill. You want to say, okay, how can I gain from attacking? So this would, even if white lives on the left side, white's not getting any points. White's just dame, and black can attack the bottom side. And then black goes here. So if black had simply just haned here, this would kind of finish off the attack that black could be doing. Because if white answers locally, then black can cap. And notice all of black's stones are now working in unison to surround the white's left side here. And even if the key is, even if we can't kill a group, as long as we seal it in, it won't affect anywhere else on the board. And ideally, it lives small, which in this case, white's going to live small somehow. Again, there's too many variations to show like what white could do, but as long as you just try to keep white sealed in, all your outside stones are going to help. Now, black going here, again, not a horrible move, but it would allow white to stand up here, which starts to help white connect back to these left side stones. But white answers. Answer again, okay. White plays up, and then play here. So where before I was mentioning how black has a weakness here, or white has a weakness because black has a large knights. White has a large knights, and black has a knights move from both of those stones. Notice black has both weaknesses with both of these white stones here. So this is a case where, while the shape is nice, because white stones are nearby, it can fall apart if white simply just separates, whether here or here. So this is where shape is good, but you have to take into account what your opponent has nearby as well. So here, maybe black should just play a knight's move instead to prevent any sort of separation that could happen. And I believe something like that does happen in this game. White leans, push, and cut. This is totally fine. And black attaches here, and technically there is no problems here. So this move is totally fine in that sense, but there is a better move for black if black had simply cut. And this is where actually black's move here at K6 is working perfectly. This is a ladder breaker. So white cannot capture the stones here, because this is going to hit that black stone there. And so even if black had fixed, if there was some weakness there, or black was worried about some weakness, white has a lot of weaknesses here, because white has a bunch of cuts. So this isn't thickness that white has. This is actually just a lot of weaknesses that black can look at. Now, technically, again, there's a cut here, and technically it's dangerous, but if black plays correctly, it should be okay for black. If black simply Atari's this way. Yeah. And this is, again, what's so fascinating with Go is if it's a big if, but if black played correctly, everything holds here. Atari down, and yeah, there's not much white can do. White can try descending, but if you just block, Atari, throw in, we're okay here. 2 liberties to 3 liberties. If white goes here, Atari. So again, black is okay here. And again, if black's okay here, then again, white has a bunch of thickness. But in the game, when white cuts and black lets white sacrifice, even here, just capturing the 2 stones, there's actually not much here for white to do. It would be okay for black, but black allows white to capture, and now what used to have been, what could have been weakness for white, there's now no cuts, it's just a huge thickness. So yeah, that's why they say games aren't decided in opening, but are decided in fighting, because this is a huge swing for white. Shoulder hit. So shoulder hit, once again, notice how it creates. We have a large knights here. It forced white to get that key move at N15. And so trying to visualize, okay, if I play this move and my opponent responds, how does the board change? Visualizing it is tricky, I will admit that. But trying to start to visualize it is what's going to help. Because before, this kind of move wouldn't work as well for white if white just tries to separate immediately, because white gets separated. But once black adds a stone here, let's say black pulled back, now white can separate, and now it's just a lot easier for white to come in. So just these minor moves that can have big implications is kind of what Go is all about. And in fact, white finds it. Hane. And again, white should just extend here, but in the game, play there, Atari, connect. And there technically is weaknesses here, so black should really fix the cuts. Because there's just double Ataris and cuts on the second line, which are pretty dangerous. White goes here, this is good. And I like how black answered everything, and once there was no more Sente, black took the follow-up on the right side. That was good. Here, black should just Hane, because if white cuts, it's 2 liberties to 2 liberties. Black still has time to capture this stone on the second line. If you can cut on the second line, you're pretty much capturing that stone. So white would have to connect first, and then black can connect. In the game, when black Ataris, white could have connected, and even if black captures 1 stone, white keeps the whole right side, and it's not that big for black. White connected though, and this allowed black to capture the stones, so that was good for black. Play there. Yeah, here, again, black has too many, if you count the liberties and how many cuts, 2 liberties, 3 liberties, 3 liberties, whereas white is basically invincible. Yeah, trying to block here is just not going to go too well for black. Here, very important point here of liberties. So notice, if you don't push here and you simply play the move you end up playing, white cannot push and cut. Because you have 2 liberties, you can ladder these stones. But as soon as you push here, like in the game, this now becomes an Atari. So you got rid of your own liberty in the process. So yeah, if you wanted to play here, I think just playing there directly would be better, because you can always play K4. Like on your next move, you could play K4. But by playing K4 first, now you've taken away your own liberty. White has time to maybe stand up. This is forcing, and yeah. So in general, if you're going to push, you want to be able to cut, but in this case, you just aren't able to cut, so you probably don't want to try that. White goes here, connect. This is, again, good recognition. Black cuts here. This is very good. And there's 2 more main points in this game that I want to get to, because we are running low on time. But right here, kind of similar to the last game. Both sides, if black connects, it is Gote, right? If black connects, Gote. But if white takes, it is also Gote. So it's Gote for both sides. Black gets 0 points for connecting, and white gets 2 to 3 points by taking, because white has to add another stone to even get the point at L2. So it is a roughly like 2 or 3 point move, Gote for both sides. So this is a perfect example of stones to sacrifice. Black really needs to play in the center to help these 4 stones here, because these are cutting stones, so they're cut off, so black needs to save these 4 stones. When black saves here, white technically answered, but white could have just played towards the center, and there's not really anything there for black. White fixed, black tried here. This is actually the proper shape, so again, it's good to try to learn, so this is okay. Black turns, and black splits here, but notice, black self-peep the 1 space jump, and then black tries to save, and yeah, ends up getting captured here. Now, this happened in the first game. So if it happens to 7Ks, it can happen to 19Ks, believe it or not. But don't just look for a ladder, look for a net. White can net these 3 stones. And if white can net these 3 stones, then yeah, white is just simply okay there. Tari, okay. Play here. That's fine. There's a big weakness here. Like this move, again, is because white is fully alive, technically the board looks like this. So like black's playing in an area that's not super big, whereas playing here is huge because white could Atari here, which is Sente, Atari, and capture this big glob of stones. It looks like Thor's hammer. But white can capture this. So yeah, black needs to add the stone here to now fix that problem. One final thing to really talk about in this game, besides white could have captured here, this is a big point here, but right at the end of the game, right, where is it? Here. So all the points are filled up and black goes here. And as I was saying in the second game, if you think as white, if you're white here, if you think you can kill this, you don't want to add a stone because you would technically lose a point, right? If black doesn't end up living and you just go elsewhere, then black just lost a point. And this is a good habit to build. You don't want to just assume you have to answer your opponent. Now, in this case, in the game, black ends up living. Black ends up living in this corner. And in fact, that's what switched the tides of the game. I believe black won by 7 points after this. It definitely swung the game for sure. Simply by white ignoring, white ended up losing this game. But I still think it was the right idea, white, because you are building a good habit of not just answering your opponent and trusting your reading. If you thought black couldn't live, then you should force your opponent to show you that. So yeah, now to show how to kill this, you simply just play at S19. That is the key shape, and there's no problems there. Yeah. So I think for both players, again, you're pretty early in your Go careers, at least in terms of ranks. So I think just keep chugging out games, keep learning new proverbs, and keep getting experience through games and through this program, and I think you'll do pretty well. Yeah. So that's it for round 5 reviews. And in fact, that's it for season 19. If you're interested in joining, I will have a link in the description on how you can join season 20. I believe that starts on March 17th, I believe. Mid-March. I'll have the date in the description, but all you need is an active, I believe, either membership, Go membership for America, Mexico, or Canada. I think you need an active membership for any of those, and you can just play in this league for free and get game reviews by me and other strong American players. But yeah. Oh, do they? Okay, I did not know that. Okay. Interesting. Okay. That's good to know. Thank you. Yeah. Awesome. But yeah, I hope to see everybody in season 20. And yeah, thank you all for watching.